Hey, what's up guys, and today I want to go over what I think the best hand traps are going to be in the upcoming format. Keep in mind this list is going to be post-dude, but I don't think much actually changes in terms of relevancy of the hand traps. So anywho, starting off with Ash Blossom, I'm going to put Ash in Solid, which is kind of where it is every format, to be honest. So why is Ash in Solid? So last format, Ash was here because not only was it okay against the decks, but it could stop non-engine, obviously the multiple armies, but also you could stop Holy Suit and Azuna. This format, I don't think the latter reason is that relevant. I don't expect Azuna to see a ton of play. Not only did the K9 decks get hit, but also Azuna just seems poorly positioned into the format. But also Holy Suit isn't going to be a thing as well, right? But I still think Ash is solid because Ash is really good against the newer decks, or the newer like meta decks, kinda. In terms of what I'm expecting to see play, I'm expecting Mitsurugi to see a ton of play, dracotail to see a ton of play, and also Yummy as like the main three decks. And Ash against two of those three is really good. And even against the other decks, Ash is not bad either when you're talking about stuff like Lunalight. So I think Ash is really solid next format. I'm not putting it high impact because Ash by itself isn't like a turn ender type shit, but I think Ash is still really solid. Next up for Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell is an interesting one. I'm gonna put Ghost Bell in decent situational. At first I had Ghost Bell in solid, but I don't think it's quite there yet because when I'm thinking about solid, I'm thinking about cards that are also like just stronger than Bell. So basically, like I had it in solid originally because I was like, oh, Ghost Bell against Dracotail is good, Ghost Bell against Mitsurugi is good, but they're not good in every scenario. The issue with Ghost Bell is that like it's a going second card, not a going first card. Ghost Bell against Dracotail is good when you're going second. Ghost Bell is not good against Dracotail when you're going first. And against Mitsurugi, it's kind of inconsistent, which I know sounds crazy, but like against pre-prep, obviously Bell is very good. But often if they sequence correctly, unless you're pairing Bell with multiple other hand traps from their turn, the Ghost Bell isn't really doing much to stop the Mitsurugi player on their turn. If they open like multiple engine cards. And then holding Ghost Bell for your turn doesn't really work that well because if they go like Prayers Tribute Mirakumo, if you Bell that, they can just trigger Prayers. But if you don't Bell that, they're going to chain block to Mirakumo. So Bell is a bit iffy against those decks. Also against Yummy, same thing against Dracotail. Going second, Bell is actually pretty good. Going first, I don't think Bell is as good. So Bell is just decent situational for now. At first, I had it in the main decks, but I'm not sure if I would main it. I think I might just like side it and then just keep the main deck for the cards that would be more flexible. But yeah, moving on to Bystials. I think Bystials are really nice in the upcoming format. So obviously Bystials against VexenYGO were unplayable, but against the newer meta decks, I think they're really good. It's not good against Dracotail, but against Mitsurugi, I think Bystials are nice, and against like Yummy, I think Bystials are nice. I don't think Bystials. Okay, I'm saying Bystials are nice. Nice with a caveat. They're nice if they're like good with your engines. Like I probably wouldn't play Bystials in any deck. But for example, if you're playing Dracotail, I think there's a decent reason to like main deck Magnemite. Whereas before, if you main deck Magnemite, I think you were like Giga trolling. So I think Bystials are okay for that reason. But it depends on the deck you're playing. If you're playing Dracotail, you're playing Malice, like they're kind of nice. Next we have Contact C. This card's unplayable. So the reason I'm putting Contact C in unplayable is because with the removal of Arclight from the format, or second Arclight rather, I think that their extra deck for Yummy gets more free. So, and because it gets more free, people are going to be more inclined to play cards like Contact C, or Donna or whatever to deal with the Contact C, or Cross Sheep, not the card. They're going to play more cards like Cross Sheep to deal with the Contact C. So I think Contact C loses value because of that, so I don't think it's playable. Technically, it's not like unplayable. If you play against somebody who doesn't play it, you're gonna pop off, but it's unplayable in the sense that I would not play it in my deck. DD Crow, I'm gonna put DD Crow in Lackluster. I don't think it's a terrible card. I actually think it's really good against Mitsurugi, the pure version, personally. However, well, really solid, I'll say that. However, better than Bystials. However, it's not really good against any of the other decks. It's okay against Lunalight, but you kind of need to be playing a ton of hand traps for that to work, so it's just lackluster for that reason. Aside from Delta, I think Delta is top tier. As like I said, it gets a lot better, I think, because I think with Mitsurugi as a deck, that's going to see a lot more play. Delta's pretty good there. And I think Delta is not bad against Lunalight either. It's decent in the matchup. Against Dracotail, I think it's also pretty decent as well. And it can be a big coin flip sometimes, I will admit that. It also depends on the variant you're playing against, so be a little iffy there, but yeah. I think Delta is something that actually I'm like talking about in my head, because it's not a card I would side against Yummy, I'm gonna put it at the top of decent situational. But there's like a world where I think you do play this format. Whereas last format, because it was also bad against Vanquishful, I didn't think there was a world you played it. Droll, I have Droll in decent situational. I like Droll is not a main deck card because it's not good against Yummy, right? And it's not good against dracotail. But against like Mitsurugi, Droll is really good. And against some of the side decks or this rogue cards, like Sky Striker, Lunalight, you know, Droll is pretty good. I said rogue cards, I meant rogue decks. So I think Droll is a pretty solid side deck card. And depending on how you're taking your approach to deal with Mitsurugi, I think I would probably include it in my side deck. Droll is a bit weird last format because even though it was good against Vanquishful, it kind of, number one, conflicted with like most armies, and number two, needed you to take a certain like other non-engine approach to go with the Droll. But I think it's pretty chill now. Fantasme, I'm gonna put in lackluster. It's decent, it's solid against Yummy, but it's pretty bad against everything else. So yeah, I do not want Fantasme. Gamma, I think Gamma's crazy. You know, Gamma, I'm always gonna put Gamma here. I think the format's really good. I tried to side Gamma in some decks last format, but it was like weird. It was like I was playing Vanquishful, and it was like a terrible card to draw Fantasme and like Fire Attacker, and like another brick too going second, especially, and it wasn't an attribute. But I think Gamma has potential. Yeah, especially if you're playing Delta. Chaos Hunter, unplayable. Imperm, I'll put Imperm in decent situational. Against Yummy, it can be okay in some scenarios. Obviously, a lot of time against a good Yummy player, you're not going to be able to actually Imperm the Cubsy unless you have multiple other hand traps with it. Paired with Fluid's really good though. Against Dracotail, I think Yummy's pretty alright. Against Dracotail, I think Imperm is pretty solid as well. Hitting a normal summoner, hitting a Valtharion gives you value. Maybe it's not a turn ender every time, but it does its job. Against Mitsurugi though, it's pretty bad. So like really bad. So that's why it's here. But yeah. Also because the format's new, there're gonna be a lot of random rogue decks. So I think Imperm shines. Like if you play against like Branded, you're gonna want to Imperm to stop like a Uber and shit like that. If you play against like Lunalight, you're gonna want to Imperm as well. Not saying Imperm's a high value card against Lunalight, but you know, you want to stop Lunalight from playing. So it's like one of many hand traps you can draw that can help you do that. So I have Imperm here. If it was better against Mitsurugi, it would probably be a little bit up. Maybe not. Maybe it would be better against Mitsurugi and Yummy, but yeah. That's the reason why it's here. Moving on to Lancia, unplayable. Ghost Warner, unplayable. I'm not going to talk about that. That's unplayable. Puria, I'm going to put Puria in lackluster. I'll move that here. Puria is in lackluster because the K9 decks got hit, and Puria was mainly good against those. Like I said, I think my expected meta is going to be Yummy. Pulia's bad. Well, technically, Puria got better against Yummy, but I think it's still not good enough. Because they still have like 5 cards that can help you play through it with 0 draws. And even if they don't, they can still like only give you like 1 draw. So okay, so it's just somewhat playable sometimes. What else? Dracotail, Pulia's bad. Mitsurugi, pure Mitsurugi, like bro, like Puria, like oh you're hand looping yourself. Okay, what are the rogue decks? K9 Christian, sure, Puria is pretty good against that deck. Okay. Lunalight, Pulia's unplayable. Like really bad. Ooh, it's like same as like Dracotail. Okay, what other rogue decks there? Striker, Like I think Puria is just like, I don't think I would side Puria right now. I think there are other cards you can side for like the K9 combo decks potentially. Like Droll for example. Anywho, we have Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre, I'm going to put in lackluster. It lost its main allure and be able to hit the Vanquishful field spell. Now it's just like bleh. Like, I don't think it has value. I don't think it's great. Purge, I think Purge is high up. You know, Purge is pretty good against Yummy. Unlike Imperm and Valor, they can't really dodge the Purge on the Cubsy to stop the surprise access, which is pretty nice. Purge against Dracotail, I think is really good. Not only just because it's like a hand trap to stop them from playing, but when you go first, it's a card that stops the Ketu from resolving, so I think that has a lot of value. Also doesn't move to like back removal potentially, like Urgula, so that's nice. Purge against Mitsurugi I think is really solid. The only scenario where it's not is they go like Habakiri, summon Saji, Saji summon, Saji add, sorry, add ritual. Then it's like you can't purge because they don't control a card if you're going second. So, but otherwise I think the card's really good. So, and then against the rogue deck, it's still like purge against Canine Christian, against Lunalight, against what other deck? Just name a deck. It's like purge is like something light, you know. So, I think the purge has value in this format. So I'm messing with that. I like it. I like it a lot. Moving on, we have Ghost Reaper. This card's unplayable. So I know last format I said Ghost Reaper was decent against against Yummy. But the thing with Ghost Reaper against Yummy is you need to be playing a ton of other hand traps, and I just don't think a ton of the other hand traps are like viable. I'm not gonna lie, like they just don't really do that much. So because of that, I don't think Reaper pairs well with board breakers, and it's obviously not good against like mitsurugi and dracotail. So like I don't like it. Shifter, I'm gonna put Shifter in solid. I think if your deck can play it, you should be playing it. Whereas last format, I wasn't sure about that. Obviously, it's gonna be playable against Yummy, but also it's really good against dracotail. Actually, better against dracotail than it is Yummy. So I think Shifter is really nice. And then when you go to some of the rogue decks, it's like Shifter against Lunalight, Shifter against Sky Striker, Shifter against Memento. You know, Shifter is just really good, really solid. So I like Shifter a lot. I think it is a very cool Yu-Gi-Oh card right now. Skullmeister, unplayable. I guess technically you could argue it's not unplayable because you can Skullmeister versus Mitsurugi, but no, that has to be like Gigacope. Yeah, I'm just putting it unplayable. Oops, my bad. Unplayable. Gizmek, unplayable. Veiler, I put Veiler in Lackluster, so I don't think it's terrible versus every deck. Mimir, I don't think it's good. Or sorry, versus Yummy, I don't think it's good. I think Veiler versus Yummy is like Gigacope. There are some hand trap combinations that Veiler was okay against Yummy for last format, but I think those goes to get worse with the release of Marshmallow and then be able to add like an extender. I think Veiler, yeah, I think this card is just meh. Against Dracotail is actually pretty decent, I will admit that. I'm not gonna lie, against Dracotail I think it's actually a solid card. Against Pure Mitsurugi is terrible. Against Lunalight it's not bad. Canine Christian, it's like whatever. It's so decent if you have like a ton of other hand traps. But yeah, it's like a lackluster card. I probably wouldn't play this in my deck, to be honest. Unless you're playing something like Blue Eyes, but yeah. It'd be like that. Nibiru, I'm gonna put Nibiru in Lackluster. So it's solid against Yummy, but against like the other decks like Dracotail, bad. Mitsurugi, bad. Unless your opponent misplays, which should be fair. Against a bad Mitsu player, I think Nib can have some value sometimes, but it's like if your opponent's a bad type of thing. Nib versus some of the rogue decks. What are the rogue decks I mentioned? Canine Christian need to be paired with a ton of other cards. So depending on your hand trap approach, it's like chill. But Nib against Lunalight, bad. For sure, terrible. Nib against like Sky Striker, bad. Nib against like whatever. So I'm not a big fan of it. Fua, I think Fua is the best card right now. So Fua, I mean it's Fua. I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best hand trap against Yummy for the most part. Against Dracotail, it's not crazy against Dracotail, but against Dracotail, you're not really going to stop someone with a ton of non-engine. I mean, you actually can, but the problem is you're not going to play that approach. So against Dracotail, it kind of does what you want it to do. It just like replaces itself. It's always going to be like an upstart at least. So it sounds like doesn't sound that great, but when a lot of decks can actually like deal with the Dracotail board of engine, so having that just the upstart is like really nice. So I'm a fan of Fua. I think I keep it. You keep it in versus Dracotail for sure. Versus Mitsurugi, I'm not gonna lie, the card's not that great. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they go like Habakiri, it's like sure, but outside of that, it's like whatever. But against all the rogue decks, like Fua's like crazy. So I think Fua is really nice. Also against Canine decks, if you play against them, which I say Canine decks, but it's really just like Canine Christian. Canine Vegas is terrible. Don't play that. Don't play that. Don't play that. Canine Pure, but I don't even think the Canine Pure deck is very good. I think you have to play Fiendsmith. Like the M board for Pure is just not good enough. Yada yada yada. But I digress. So Fua's top tier. Moving on to Meow, I think this card is unplayable. I think Malice, while I do think Malice might see some play, I don't think you should be preparing for it like that. And yeah. Arguably, you can argue it gets better though against the Yummy deck, because when you go, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna put it in top of Blackluster because I think it does have some potential. Because when you Meow with Yummy, so I think they're gonna be more often placing the minion turn 1, and then it also isn't a terrible card into Mitsurugi. I don't hate it. Honestly, I don't hate it. Technically, it's playable against Lunalight, but I don't really like it in that matchup because the problem is you only start drawing until they start playing a little bit, so it's just like too late. But yeah, I already did Bystials, so I could see Meows maybe seeing some play. Psycho Reader, unplayable. Don't play this garbage. Retaliating C, I'll put in decent. I'll put it in here. I'm not gonna lie. It's only really playable against Dracotail. Against every other deck, it's kind of eh. Well, it's against Lunalight. It's solid too. And you technically beat it with Engine, but they need like multiple Engine cards. So I think it's decent. I think it's hard to consider. It's a card to consider. Token Collector, unplayable. Dominus Impulse, I think this card is crazy. I don't really need to go over the impact of Dominus Impulse. It's funny, versus Yummy, it's actually not the craziest card. But, I mean, if you're playing a ton of hand traps, then Dominus Impulse can be used to stop something on your turn, which is pretty cool. But against all the other decks, Impulse is like crazy. Like, against Dracotail, against Mitsurugi, all the rogue decks, Impulse goes crazy. And then especially against, when you play against a deck like K9 Christian, for example, they lost Inclusion, or 2 copies of Inclusion. So you're going to have Christian Engine less often, kind of. So the thing is, Impulse, you can use it to more consistently stop them from getting to their K9 engine, their Christian engine. Because like Ripper isn't going to be able to stop the Impulse. Same thing with like Purge a little bit too, so I think that's really nice. Azuna, I think Azuna is lackluster. It's not completely unplayable, but like I said, it's not good against Yummy. It's okay against Dracotail. I think it's been overrated against Dracotail though. I'm not gonna lie, like people overrate the heck out of that card. Against Dracotail, but it's not bad against the matchup. Against Mitsurugi, I think you need to be playing Hound for it to have value. So yeah. But yeah, so I think if you're playing a K9 deck, this format, I think you should be playing 2 Azuna in the main deck, not 3. And then you just side the 3rd Azuna. That's just my opinion. But yeah, moving on to Songs of the Dominator. Songs of the Dominator, I'm going to be putting in lackluster. I never thought this card was crazy against Yummy. I mean, it's okay. I guess it's similar to Purge, but against other decks, I don't think it's very great. Against Dracotail, it's like can be good on the normal summon, but this can be okay, rather not even good. Against Mitsurugi, blah. And also it's lackluster because I think the build around it isn't the best. Although I guess you could argue that the Songs build does get a little bit better. But I'm not trying to play like Imperm in my deck for it, I'm not gonna lie. But you could argue the Songs build does get better though, but I'm not sure I 100% believe that. Because I still want to be playing Fool, I still want to be playing like I said like I think board breakers are better this format, but I still want to be playing like a certain amount of hand traps. Like if I'm playing Yummy, my list has like, what does it have right now? Fua, Ash, Purge, 3. Maybe I have Imperm, maybe I have like 12. Maybe I have like 12 to 15 hand traps and the rest like board breakers. Or to say board breakers is like just like droplet tactics probably. Yeah. But yeah. Anywho, Dominus Spiral, I think this card's unplayable. So I think in the vacuum, Dominus Spiral is actually a really, really good card, but I just don't think it's good into the decks. I'm not gonna lie. Like this card is just not good into like the decks at all. So I mean, I'm gonna put it in actually in lackluster because I think there arguably is a world where it's like okay into your Dracotail. Against the regular Dracotail board, it's like the vanilla board is really bad, but to go for like a Seals or something, it can be okay there, I guess. Against Yummy, it's so bad, you know. I'm not a fan of it. And against Mitsurugi, I'm not a huge fan either. But you know, maybe I haven't tested it against Mitsurugi, so maybe there are spots where it's like it gains a lot of value. In my head, it doesn't seem that great though. But yeah, so that's what I have for there. And then that's it for the hand trap tier list. So anywho, these are my thoughts on the hand traps, this format. I've done a little bit of testing, but obviously the format literally just started like a couple days ago, so I haven't done an extreme amount of testing yet, so keep that in mind. Nobody has, of course. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, let me know down below in the comments what you agree or what you disagree with. What would you change on this list? Maybe you think I'm crazy for rating like Gamma this high, like Vexen. Gamma's like lackluster at best, or I don't know. But yeah, anywho, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day.